Hi everybody, Amber here. Welcome back to In Conversation with ATF. My guest today is a voice actor, a writer, a producer. He's done it all. He has been the voice director for stuff like Atlantis, Milo's Return, and 3x3 Eyes. He's also written for shows like Gem and the Holograms, Bonkers, Gargoyles, which he also served as supervising producer and assistant voice director, Men in Black, the series, Kim Possible, The Batman, Ben 10, The Spectacular Spider-Man, where he also served as co-developer, writer, and supervising producer, Young Justice, where he also served as a co-developer, writer, and producer on that show as well. Transformers Prime, Transformers Rescue Bots, Transformers Earthspark, Star Wars Rebels, and many, many more shows. He's also voice acted as characters such as Lucas Carr, Ultra-Humanite, and more in Young Justice. And forgive me if I pronounced this wrong. I couldn't find any sort of pronunciation thing on this. Moutoku SouSou. Right?
Yeah.
In Ikki Tousen.
Yeah.
Okay, there
Ikki
we go.
Tousen, yeah.
Ikki Tousen, there we go. Okay, cool. He's basically done it all.
It's a very long list, which mostly just proves that I'm been doing this a very long time.
One of the greatest.
I did not write on Bonkers. Among the things you listed was
no, I've made a fool of myself.
I was an executive back then, and I was so I worked on it. I helped develop the show and sell it, but I didn't write it.
Right, okay, that's my fault then, because I get all my stuff from Wikipedia. I really should go to MD or something. But yeah, my guest is Greg Weisman. Hi! Oh my gosh, it's a pleasure. It's a massive pleasure to be talking to you right now.
Great to be here.
Awesome. Now, of course, I've got to bring up for those of you at home who don't know, when I was in LA, I visited Nickelodeon, and I actually walked into a writers' meeting for Transformers Earthspark. Now, I'm not going to say what was being discussed in there, because I don't know whether it's been broadcast or not. I'm not a regular Earthspark viewer. But all I know is that Dale Malinowski was there, and he was on a Zoom call. I can't remember the other people he was with. Ant Ward might have been there, but Greg was one of the people on the Zoom call, which I find just such a coincidence. Like, I completely forgot. And just now we're here together in a Zoom call. It's like sort of, it's all connected. That is just awesome. Wow. Okay, so I want to take it back to the beginning. How did you get started? Now, of course, Gem seems to be the earliest sort of show that's on your massive list of stuff you've wrote for. So I'm presuming Gem was the only sort of Marvel Sunbow show that you wrote for back then?
Right. I was working in comic books. I had a staff job at DC Comics in New York. And I had a writing partner, Carrie Bates. And Carrie knew Roger Slifer, who was an editor at Sunbow. And so Roger said, why don't you guys pitch premises? So we pitched a bunch of premises to a number of different Sunbow shows, which included Transformers, though we didn't sell anything there. And this is the 80s, this is 86, 87, somewhere in there. Probably 86. And we sold one premise to Gem and the Holograms, and then we got to write that script. And I thought, that was my first television credit. And I thought, oh, this is going to lead to all this work. And it led to absolutely nothing. I got nothing, no other jobs from having written that one episode of Gem or co-written it with Carrie. So I was working in comics as an associate editor, and was also freelancing on a few things here and there, mostly Captain Atom, which Carrie and I co-wrote. And then I left DC to go to graduate school back in LA, which is where I'm from. And I was still writing Captain Atom in those days. And eventually, after I graduated from USC a couple of years later, I got a job as a junior executive at Disney TV Animation. And that's really where my animation career started. I mean, I'd written that one gem, and it probably didn't hurt that I had that on my resume, but I don't think that was the big factor there. I think the big factor was that I had a meeting with the guy who ran TV animation, a guy named Gary Kreisel. And I think Gary was impressed with the combination on my resume of having this liberal arts education. I studied Shakespeare. I studied in Oxford for a semester. And then the fact that I'd worked in comic books. And so he liked the fact that, you know, I wasn't just most of the people he was talking to in those days, you know, he'd talk to them about what they like, and all they'd answer is stuff by George Lucas or stuff by Steven Spielberg. And I liked that stuff too, but that wasn't, you know, my go-to. And so he liked the depth that I had, but he also knew, because I worked in comics, that I wouldn't look down my nose at working in animation. And so after I graduated, he got me a job, or helped me get a job, at Disney TV Animation.
That is awesome. And that was like sort of a time where like sort of the Disney afternoon was sort of still going, but then you had these shows like Bonkers and Gargoyles, of course, which that was like, you were one of the top people on the show, of course, as supervising producer.
I created Gargoyles.
And you created it as well. I was gonna say, because it said like supervising producer, I saw somewhere, and then I swear, and then obviously I saw creator Gargoyles, and then I just like completely forgot. I am so sorry.
It's okay.
You producer, creator. So it was all your idea then?
The idea was mine. I mean, a lot of people worked on it. A lot of people helped me develop the show, and a lot of people helped make the show. I was not at all a one-man band there, but the original idea for the show came from me. And I was, you know, Frank Parr and I, who's the other producer on the show, were the co-showrunners of it. And but I'm the one who came up with the idea. I led the team that developed it. I sold the idea to Michael Eisner, and then I began producing the show before Frank came aboard, before our story editor Michael Reeves came aboard, and then we all made the show together.
That is awesome. And considering that you were the assistant to Jamie Thomason, who was the voice director on the show, I've got to ask.
Well, that's not right either.
That
I don't know where you got this
actors. Oh my!
Jamie worked. Jamie was the voice director of the show, and he voice directed nearly every episode of the show. Jamie worked for me because I was the producer on the show, and I was an executive during the first season. So, and then I wanted to try voice directing. So there were a few sessions where Keith David was in New York on Broadway, and so not available to come and record with the cast. And so I would voice direct the occasional session just with Keith, long distance.
Right, okay.
And then I wanted to direct an episode, so I directed one episode of the series. So I guess you could call me the assistant voice director, although that's sort of silly. I mean, I just voice directed one episode, and Jamie voice directed, I don't know, 77 episodes. So it was really, Jamie was the voice director. He's a very good friend of mine. He's amazingly talented, and the show wouldn't be the show without Jamie. But yeah, I wasn't his assistant. I was kind of his boss. So
no, it's me. I'm absolutely mortified. I can't believe I got. Well, I mean, it said behind the voice actors, it said your assistants. I was like, I'm just gonna trust this website and stuff like that. Oh my gosh, I feel a bit
It's okay.
silly. Okay.
Well, the internet is of limited
Yeah.
trustworthiness, let's
Prob-
just say.
next time I do an interview with someone, I'm just gonna send them like everything in my notes and just say, "Can you confirm that this is true? Can you confirm that this is true?" And just like I just want to get my facts right. There you go. But yeah, Jamie is definitely a pioneer because I've looked at his resume and he has done a lot of shows for Disney, not just like Gargoyles and just.
For a lot of places.
I'm very
Because
impressed.
he's also was the voice director on Spectacular Spider-Man. He was
He
the voice
was.
director on Young Justice, and that's just shows he's worked with me on.
Mm-hmm.
Um, he is voice directed many movies and television shows beyond that.
Wow. Wow. He'd be a great person to talk to like about everything that he's done just like for so many companies. Wow. Um so then what did you do? Did you sort of remain at Disney that well, I presume you did because it sort of jumps to Kim Possible, but that was about 10 years later maybe, but in between I know one of the shows that you worked on was Men in Black the series. So did you bounce between companies or did you sort of just
Yeah, I mean, I left Disney in 1996,
mm-hmm.
went to DreamWorks for 2.5 years, something like that.
Ooh. Mm-hmm.
Started freelancing for Sony. Um, uh, Worked on, as you said, Men in Black, the animated series. I also worked on uh, uh, Rusty the Boy Robot, and then I was a story editor on um, Roughnecks, the Starship Trooper Chronicles, and then I was a producer on Max Steel.
Mm-hmm.
And then, and during all this, I freelanced for a number of different TV series, Ben 10. I mean, you name most of them. Kim Possible, at a lot of different companies. I went back to Disney for a while to story edit and voice direct on Team Atlantis, which was a television series that didn't see the light of day, except as they took the first 3 episodes and put them together as a movie, Milo's Return, Atlantis, Milo's Return. And I voice directed those episodes of that movie.
Wow.
And then I did the second season. I produced the second season of Witch
Yes,
for
Witch. Yes, yes.
Disney. I mean, it was but I didn't work for Disney. I worked for a French company whose name escapes me at the moment. And the French company was producing the show for Disney and the Disney Channel and ultimately for Disney XD. But I wasn't a Disney employee during that time. And then from there, I did Spectacular Spider-Man for Sony. I did Young Justice for Warner Brothers. I did Star Wars Rebels for Lucasfilm and Disney. I did Shimmer and Shine for Nickelodeon. Back to Warner Brothers for 2 more seasons of Young Justice and for the Catwoman Hunted movie. And then most recently, I was on Transformers or Spark for about the last 6 months.
Yeah, yeah. And I've got to ask, it says obviously Transformers Rescue Bots you wrote for. I just want to see if that's correct.
I did write a
Okay.
few episodes freelance for them. Yeah.
Okay. So compared to what you've written in the past, what was it like to write a show that was directed at a preschool audience? Did you find it hard? Did you find it relatively easy?
No, I mean, on the 2 preschool shows that I've worked, which is Rescue Bots and Shimmer and Shine, there were really strong story editors on. Stephanie Simpson was the showrunner on Shimmer and Shine when I started. Then Dustin Ferrer and Kevin Hops on Rescue Bots. It was Nicole Dubuque. And they had a real clear vision about what they were looking for and what they wanted. It made it really easy. The Rescue Bots was just a few freelance episodes. Shimmer and Shine, I was on staff as a staff writer, and we had a lot of fun. And I think, you know, we did some great stuff, but mostly we just had a lot of fun doing it. And but having a strong person in the lead, I think is really the ball game, because if they're clear on what the vision is, it's very easy for the writer to pick up that vision and run with it.
100%. Yeah, I agree with you on that. So Transformers Prime, you worked on that as well, or is
I think just one freelance episode. Yeah.
Oh, cool. Yeah, I was just wondering what was it like to work on that on, you know, the one episode.
Same deal. I mean, it was just a freelance show, but I was working for Dwayne Capizzi, who's story editing that, and Dwayne and I go way back to my Disney days. We're old friends, and again, you know, if you've got a strong leader, it's not too tough to jump aboard and get one, and get on the train, so to speak. I wrote a couple Kim Possibles for Bob Schooley and Mark McCorkle, and my story editor on that, I think, was Gary Sperling. And I'll admit, the first one, I didn't do such a great job. I got rewritten a lot. I had trouble finding the tone a bit, but by the second one, I think I had sort of nailed it. I think I only wrote 2 Kims, but I felt like the first one I did okay. The second one, I felt like I sort of finally caught the tone of the show, and so sometimes there's a bit of a ramping up process, finding your sea legs, so to speak.
Yeah.
But most of the time, I'm pretty good at jumping aboard and catching the tone of a show, catching the vision of a show, the direction of a show from the people in charge, and I can move with it.
Sweet. So on shows like Gargoyles and Spectacular Spider-Man and Young Justice, the ones you were sort of, you know, your creator and producer on, I presume you obviously got acquainted with the voice actors that worked on the show, and if so, which ones, well, I shouldn't really ask which one were your favorites, but is there any voice actors that you know you really enjoyed hanging out with, or just all of them, or is there any names that stick out for you? There we go.
You know, I'm very close to many voice actors from the various shows that I've produced. Certainly from Gargoyles, you know, Keith David and I are good friends. Tom Adcox is one of my best friends. He's the voice of Lexington. Bridget Bacco and I, you know, had dinner the last time she was in Los Angeles. She splits her time between LA and New York. She's the voice of Anne. Keith is the voice of Goliath, and I'm really friendly with pretty much everybody there. Jonathan Frakes, Marina Sirtis, all the regulars. Bill Fagerbach, I ran into at Nick. He was doing an episode of Patrick Starfish, and I was doing a Transformers Earthspark, and we just hung out in the green room and talked for a while. Hadn't seen each other in a few years. Well, with the pandemic, there are a lot of people I haven't seen in a few years, but you know, it's always great to see them. I'm really close to a lot of voice actors from Spectacular Spider-Man, like Josh Keaton and Lacey Chabert and Andrew Cascino, Vanessa Marshall.
Vanessa's awesome.
And many of those also had roles on Young Justice. Stephanie Lemelin, I'm really close to. Nolan North.
Nolan's awesome. He's
you know, some people I hang out with on occasion. Others, you know, I probably don't see unless I run into them either in a voice booth or at a convention or something like that. But you know, when we see each other, it's great. I ran into Jesse McCartney at a convention in New Orleans.
Oh wow!
I was at one convention. He was doing something else, but we just both happened. I think he was singing, but we just both happened to be in the same hotel, and so we chatted it up for a bit. These are really good people, and I love actors. I love spending time working with actors and having fun with actors. I'm doing a convention in Minneapolis over the 4th of July weekend that's coming up. So I don't know when you're posting this, but from my point of view, we're just like 2.5 weeks away from that convention. And I'm going with Tom Adcox, Bridget Bacco, Zara Fuzzle, all of whom worked on multiple shows for me. And David will be there for a night. And this is a lot of fun for me to hang with these people. It's great.
Yeah, I think it will be up before then, definitely, because I think you're about third or fourth in the queue. So yeah, you're. Sorry, accidentally muted myself. It will be out before the convention on the 4th of July weekend.
Great.
Awesome. Is there any other voice? Okay, I gotta ask. Frank Welker, who was the voice of, I think his name was Bronx on Gargoyles. He did the vocal effects. Did you get to know him at all?
Yeah, Frank is fantastic. I've worked with Frank on multiple series. He's insanely talented, really funny, a very, very, very sweet, nice guy. He's not a guy I've hung out with like some of the others.
Yeah.
But every time I see him, it's terrific to see him. And I love the guy. He's terrific.
Awesome. That's really sweet to know. Yeah, he is a really lovely man, honestly. Like I've met him 3 times. I met him when I came out to LA. But yeah, he was really lovely, definitely. So of course I've been keeping up to date with your Twitter page. Of course I've seen some of the SpiderMan videos that you've done. So that have like Josh Keaton in it, and I think Zena Robinson's in one of them. But yeah, I was gonna say, yeah, how did you sort of put all these together? I presume obviously use stuff from the comic books that you've written.
Right. So I'm writing a comic book called The Spectacular Spider-Man. It's not connected really to the old Spectacular Spider-Man TV show, although I write Spider-Man the same way, so tonally it's very similar. It just doesn't continuity wise, it's in continuity with the current Marvel comics and main Marvel continuity. It's not in continuity with the old TV show. But to help promote it, I asked friends of mine to do me a favor, and I got Josh Keaton, who played Peter Parker and Spider-Man, back on the show. It's been over 10 years now. And Josh is so great that he not only does the voice for Peter in these little videos, he also basically produces and directs them. I sort of gather the cast each video. So the first one was a scene between Peter and the barista Kenny, and Kenny was also a character in the original TV show, who was voiced by Andrew Kishino, who's another friend of mine. So I contacted Andrew, and so Pete and Kenny, played by Josh and Andrew, did the voices for this, just taking the page from the comic and bringing it to life. And that works out so well that I said, let's do this again. And this time I wanted to do a scene between Peter Parker and Miles Morales. Now, Miles wasn't in the old TV show, so I cast Zena Robinson, who I've worked with on Young Justice and Transformers Earthspark, and again is a friend. And I asked Zeno if he would play Miles, and Zeno was actually pretty excited to play Miles, even though it was for free. I wasn't paying him anything. But again, Josh has done all the hard work. I sort of check with people, ask them for a big favor. So far, everyone said yes. We did a third video where Miles is talking to Kamala Khan, And so I asked Zara Fuzzle, who's an old friend, to play Kamala. And I asked Lacey Chabert, who's an old friend and who played Gwen Stacy on the Spider-Man TV show. I asked her to play Gwen opposite Josh. And so again, I had those four. And then Andrew also was in there because, doing a television announcer. And so we did like 3 pages then. And we're working on a 4th video now. I'm not going to spoil it by saying who's in it, but I will say that again, Josh is doing all the hard work, cutting the video, putting the music on, getting all the
Wow.
voices together. All I do is ask people for favors, and fortunately, I have some very good friends who are willing to do this for me, and help promote this comic book. And I appreciate that. It's terrific of them to sort of do what they do for a living for free for me. Granted, it's not a ton of work. It's just, a handful of lines off the comic book page, but they don't have to do it. And I make it clear they don't have to do it. But they all have volunteered to help me out. And that's been frankly just lovely. And it's just a big kick for me to hear Josh play Peter again, and to hear Zeno play Miles, because I think he's perfect casting for that. And so, it's great fun to hear my words come to life off the comic book page. And that's one of 2 comics I'm writing. I'm writing Spectacular Spider-Man for Marvel, and for Dynamite, I'm writing Gargoyles Quest, which is in continuity with the old Gargoyles show.
Oh, wow. Awesome. Well, honestly, like, I'm impressed. I didn't realize Josh was the one who like puts everything together and edits everything. That is actually really cool. And the renaissance of Spectacular Spider-Man, I see fans begging for a new season. And then when obviously not gonna thing any other spoilers, but I think it was was it the latest Spider-Man film that Spectacular Spider-Man was in, or was that, I can't remember, but Spectacular Spider-Man was in something, and like, oh
Yeah,
yes,
a
and
version of
Josh,
him appears with Josh doing the voice in the latest Spider-Verse movie.
Spider-Verse, yes, that's it. And everyone was going nuts. They were wanting Disney to do another series and stuff like that. Would you like to do another series? Oh, obvious question. Would you like to do another series of the show?
I'd be thrilled to do more episodes. I don't see it happening, but I'd love to be wrong. If they came to me and said, "Would you do more?" I would say absolutely. It would make me very happy to get back on that show and get the band back together and do more of it. I think it'd be great.
Come on, Disney, we need it to happen. We need another spectacular. They said Spider-Verse. I was like, you need a Spider-Verse season. I'm like, okay. We need another season of Spectacular Spider-Man. Do you hear me? Yeah, definitely for the fans. So your voice direction work. I want to just go back real quick to Atlantis Milo's Return. So you said it was originally like a TV show, and then they compiled it to make a film.
It was originally a 40 episode. They ordered the first season, which was supposed to be 40 episodes. I didn't produce that show. That was produced by Tad Stones,
Oh
the
yeah,
creator of
Tad, yeah,
Darkwing Duck.
Mm-hmm.
And I story edited a handful of episodes, but mostly, yeah, I was the voice director on that show. And I think by the time they pulled the plug on it, we had like, I don't know, 38 scripts. We had recorded 35 episodes.
Wow.
And I'd written a couple of those, I think. And the show was being boarded, and 3 episodes, or 2 or 3 episodes, were actually being animated when they pulled the plug on it.
Oh.
And then, so, they wrote off most of the costs, but decided to take the first 3 episodes I think, and cobble them together into a movie. And Tad, I think, wrote or sort of a little connective tissue, but that came in between, sort of at the beginning and the end, and then in between each of the 3 episodes, to try and make these 3 different episodes flow as if they were one movie. They really weren't, and I don't think it really plays like a movie. I do think it plays like 3 episodes, but at least there is this connective tissue that sort of runs through it. And that was a great cast. Cree Summer played Kida. James Arnold Taylor played Milo. That was the first time I'd worked with James, who's an amazing actor on every level, but also an amazing mimic. So he would do the Michael J. Fox voice. And we had most of the cast of the original movie, which I did not, the original Atlantis movie, which I did not work on at all, but we had almost the whole cast come in, including Frank Welker was there, and
who was it I was thinking of? Phil Morris. That was him I was thinking of. Yeah.
Phil Morris, who I adore, and who I worked on many things since, including Young Justice. He's fantastic. And a whole bunch of sorry, should have turned off my phone.
Was on this as well. Wow.
I'm sorry, what?
It was like a mini Gargoyles reading. So of course you had Frank, and then you had Jeff Bennett as well, and Bill Fagerbakke. Is that how's his name? Yeah. Is it Fagerbakke?
Yeah, Fagerbakke.
Fagerbakke. And thank you for correcting me.
And we had Morgan Shepherd on there, and
Patsy Brown,
and other amazing people guest starring. George Takei. I mean, the list goes on. They were just we had a great group of regulars, and then terrific guest stars. But most of them, most of those episodes, you know, somewhere in storage, I've got cassette tapes of every recording that we did. And like I said, I think there are like 34, 35, 36 of those.
Wow.
But most of them, other than the 3 they used for Milo's return, most of them didn't see the light of day. There was one episode where we crossed over with Gargoyles, and that I wrote, that Damona is in, and we got Marina Sirtis back to play Damona. And again, we recorded that one, but it never got made. But I played that tape at a handful of conventions over the years.
Wow.
That one episode.
That is actually quite awesome. That is, I was just thinking about it, like how was it really just like what sort of stopped it exactly? Was it licensing, production costs? What sort of stopped the Gargoyles and Justice Cross?
Honestly, I think it was fear. Atlantis did well. It made over $100 million at the box office, but it was following movies like Lion King that made 5 times that, 6 times that, 10 times that.
Yeah.
And so even though it had done well, it was regarded in the company as a failure, which I thought was sad. I don't think it is as good a movie as Lion King, but it's pretty good, and it did well. People liked it. They went to see it, and it did pretty well. But within the company, everything was sort of being held up to like Beauty and the Beast and Lion King, and these movies that were just huge,
in the
massive
Renaissance years,
hits, you know.
Aladdin.
And so they thought it was a disappointment. They're like, why are we spending money on something that didn't work? And I don't think they were right. I mean, it's easy for me to say, and they put us all out of work, so it wasn't, I'm biased clearly, but I think it was a mistake. I think that a few months later, they needed action properties for ABC, and they didn't have Atlantis, but if they had, they would have had 40 episodes of that.
Yeah.
And I think it was a mistake. But yeah, I think it was fear. I think they just thought, oh, this movie didn't do well, we should stop this TV show. But the movie
Yeah.
did do well. It just didn't do Lion King business,
Yeah. Yeah.
But very few things, very, very few things do Lion King business.
Oh, yeah.
And so if that's your bar, then almost nothing is going to reach that level.
I'm pretty sure
Um,
Frozen wasn't probably one of the only other films that sort of hit that level of Lion King.
There've been a lot. Incredibles did very well.
Oh yeah, Incredibles, yeah. I didn't realize
And
it did that
lots of
well.
movies have done better than Atlantis, but lots of movies have done a lot worse than Atlantis. Um, and I think it's a shame that they didn't finish that series. They'd
Yeah.
spent, they'd easily spent out of their $20 million budget something like 12 or 13 million already, and so they just should have finished it. And
Yeah.
if it was a loss, which I don't think it would have been, then you write off the loss. But instead, they wrote off this huge investment they'd made in it, and I think it was a tremendous error. But I wasn't in charge. I'm not in charge. It's not up to
Yeah.
me.
Well, hopefully one day we can see, it will see the light of day, all these materials and the recordings and the proposed scripts and maybe concept art and stuff like that. It'd be really lovely to see it.
Yeah, I mean, most of the designs were based on the movie, so that's easy to imagine.
Yeah.
I think that it'd be great to get the stuff that was done out there, but I don't see that happening. I mean, I don't see Disney sort of pulling it out of their
Yeah.
archives and going, here you go. And I certainly
Yeah.
don't see them making it, though I think it'd be great if they did.
Yeah. Well, we can hope. But yeah, it's a real shame that, and yeah, maybe one day, who knows? Maybe they might surface. I don't know. Um, Greg, the final topic I want to touch down on is your voiceover career. Now, obviously, I've seen on Behind the Voice Actors or just at IMDb that you have done a little bit of voiceover for some shows. Of course, Young Justice, and if you, of course, Moutoku SouSou, and yeah, and a few other anime shows as well. What was your first ever voiceover that you did for a cartoon, and what sort of
Well,
inspires you
the
to do it?
first one I ever did was I had one line in an episode of Tailspin. Um,
Oh, cool.
I played a panda.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I remember the one line. It was, Father, the rockets aren't working. Played a young panda, and I told my panda dad that the rockets weren't working. But that was just me pitching in. And I did something similar. I'd have one line in Gargoyles where I say to someone, nice mask. I say to a gargoyle, I'm assuming that the gargoyle is a human wearing a mask. And so I go, nice mask, really sarcastically, as a commando. But then I have a friend, Jonathan Klein, who works for New Generation Pictures. And I'd done some voice directing again on Gargoyles and on Team Atlantis. And Jonathan hired me to story edit and voice direct the English dub of 3x3 Eyes.
Mm-hmm.
And I brought in all these. I brought in Brigitte Bako from Gargoyles and Christian Campbell from Max Steel and Keith David and Tom Adcox and the great Ed Asner and a bunch of other people to voice on 3x3. And I did a character named Hide on there as well. Just a small role because I was directing, so I didn't want a big role. And that was fun. And so Jonathan has occasionally brought me back to do work on Nazca and Ikki Tousen and a handful of other things, a few games. I've done voices for Jonathan. But Jonathan is pretty much one of only two producers who ever hires me to voice act. The other one is Greg Weisman, who hires me to voice act on pretty much every show he does. But he may be biased. So on Spectacular Spider-Man, I joined SAG and I did the voice of Donald Menken, who was the executive assistant to Norman Osborn. And then on Young Justice, I wanted to play the robot Red Tornado. And I thought, that's a character I can handle. He's a robot. We're going to futz his voice, make it electronic. And he speaks at a level. And I thought, and my partner on that show, Brandon Vietti, wouldn't let me play Red Tornado. He didn't see me in the role. He made me audition, which I thought was ridiculous. And then once I auditioned, he still said no. And so, but he let me play Lucas Carr, who was originally the high school civics teacher, later the principal of the high school. And then later let me play the Ultra-Humanite, which is a big, white, super intelligent gorilla. And I also played Lobo's Belt, a computer voice for Lobo's Belt. So I do occasional stuff. On Star Wars Rebels, I played a couple of Stormtrooper, oh my God, my brain. The guys in the white armor. What are they called?
It's okay. Don't worry.
Anyway, I did a couple of minor things in Star Wars Rebels for Dave Filoni. But that was, again, a show I was producing. So it's fun to dip my hand into that world. I think I'm a decent actor. I don't think I'm a brilliant actor. And I would never, for example, cast myself as Batman or some kind of role where my being in the role would damage the show. But I think I can hold my own if you pick the right role for me. Or if I pick the right role for me, I think I can hold my own and make it play. And it's been a lot of fun doing that. Lucas Carr in particular has been a lot of fun. Got to do a little comedy at the end of season 4 of Young Justice. Got to officiate at the wedding of Miss Martian and Superboy, and so that was fun.
Would you like to continue doing voiceover, or do you just want to put it on?
I love doing voiceover, so if anyone wants to hire me, I'm always available, and I am in SAG, so
awesome.
That'd be great. But I'm also not holding my breath that suddenly all these offers are going to come pouring in.
I'll definitely hit you up in the future if I need like a voice actor for anything. Definitely, you will be on the top of my considered list.
Thank you.
You're welcome, Greg. Honestly, thank you so much for taking the time out of your day to talk to me about your career. I feel very honored that we just sat here and just had a conversation. That's essentially what the show's all about. And I'm so happy we got to make that happen.
Well, glad to be here, Amber.
Awesome. Where can we find you on social media? I would like to know where everyone can find you before we.
I'm on X/Twitter, whatever you want to call it, at Greg_Weisman. Weisman's Weisman. I also have a website, askgregweisman.com, where I've been answering questions for 25 years now. And I have not been doing that for the last couple of years because I got honestly just kind of burnt out, frankly, by all the negativity on the internet. So I've taken a hiatus there now, but the website's still useful because all the questions I've already answered archived there. It's a searchable archive. I've literally answered thousands and thousands of questions there. And the odds are any question you have about Young Justice, particular Spider-Man, Gargoyles, etc., has already been answered. And so you can go to askgregweisman.com and search for the topic that interests you. And odds are, again, I've already answered that question, and you can find the answer there. And so that's askgregweisman, all one word.com. And those are the only two places to find me. I'm not on any other social medias, just Twitter and my own website.
Okay, well, in that case, I will get them linked in the description for you. To you at home, thank you so much for watching this episode of In Conversation with ATF. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did recording it with the ignore me, with the ever so lovely Greg Weisman. I don't know what happened there. I do apologize. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and check out the other episodes of In Conversation with ATF. There'll be more in the future, or you could watch back. It's up to you. But for now, I'll sign off here, and I'll see you guys in a future video. So take care from me and Greg. I'm gonna say bye.
Bye.
And cut.